Hey, it's Dan, and welcome to Unified Gaming. So in this one, I want to share with you the Aelid Plar. This is a Templar PvP build that uses the new Mythic, the talk of the last Aelid King. This Mythic feels like it's been made for Templar with how it synergizes so well with the class, and I'm going to show you how you can really utilise that to get the most out of it. If you ask me, it's one of the stronger Templar builds currently around, and it's well worth the farm. If you want to see the build in action though, I would suggest subscribing to the channel, where I will be posting gameplay as well as streaming on the weekends every Saturday on YouTube. As always, I want to say a massive thanks to everybody on Patreon who help make the videos possible. If you want to support myself there, get early access and much more, there's details down below. But what are we doing on this build? Well, given the name, we are using the talk of the last Aelid King. This is a brand new mythic that is, in my opinion, been made for Templar and DK. Where do you get this mythic from? Well, unfortunately, it is a bit of a grind. You have to go to Apocrypha, and you then need to go to the Infinite Archive. In the Infinite Archive, you can get into the side rooms, the little mini games, and when you complete those, you have a chance for the lead. You can also get it from the final cycle boss, the big glass person, or the goblins that do spawn inside. Everything else, boss-wise, will not drop this. The issue you have with this farm though is that you have to get all 5 from there. So my tip is just keep farming it and don't dig anything up until you get all 5 leads, and then you start going. It is worth doing it though. For the item itself, you get 500 magical and stam recovery. This is like Wretched Vitality. You get 15% damage reduction. Buffer of the Swift is 10%, so this is a really good defensive set here basically. And you get 1300 weapon and spell damage. This is like New Moon plus Clever Alchemist and a little bit more. When you combine all of this, it's basically 2 damage sets, a sustain set and a defense set. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 sets in total. With that in mind, this is really good on stat dense builds. If you are a character or a player that likes to have really high stats and feel impactful with your skills, this is for you. If you use proc sets and so on, you're going to have a bit with it, so just do factor that in. The big drawdown or like drawback with this mythic is every other item is turned off. So like I've got these boots of Alessia's Bulwark. This 2, 3, 4, 5 piece does not work. So that's the only downside with this. But the weight, the glyphs and the traits all carry over. So I'm going to show you how to actually build it now and make it work. For the race, you want to be a Dark Elf. Dark Elf gives you access to flame resist, that makes us tankier, we are a vampire. You also get access to weapon and spell damage. As a Templar you can boost this even higher. You get more max magicka and max stamina. And as you saw with this mythic, it's kind of a hybrid mythic with lots of mag and stam recovery. So you do need to pull from both resource pools, making Templar and Dark Elf just a really good synergy. As for our attributes, I've gone with 55 in health and 9 in stamina. This will give you 31,000 health and about 18.5k stam. The stam does look low, but with our sustain it's completely fine. The general rule of thumb is aim for 30,000 health, slightly more if you can, and you will be okay. As for the rest of the damage numbers and so on, our stats go up really high really quick. For the Mundus, we have the Lover, and we are a Vampire Stage 3. Just really quickly with that stat page, what does the damage look like? To buff up, I'm going to put on my armor buffs to show you the armor on the back bar. Armor buffs, we have 26,659 spell and 26,000 physical almost. We then also have obviously the 15% damage reduction from this, it's like 9,000 armor. And as I said earlier, we are a Vampire Stage 3. Vampire Stage 3 gives you more damage reduction when you're a lower health. So all of that combined basically means we are very, very tanky. You'll also see we have Temporal Guard for minor protection, which we'll touch upon in a little bit. As for our damage on the front bar, what does that actually look like? Well, to buff up we used basically 2 skills. You can use Power of the Light and Jabs. That will proc our major sorcery passives and our minor sorcery passives, so there they are again, 6,700. If we use our glyph on the back bar, so let's do this again, we have 7,292. Our spell damage is very, very high. We also have major and minor breach, so we have another 9,000 penetration, And for the sustain, if people are worried about that resource sustain, we are pretty good. With a potion, it's almost 2000 stamina recovery. Very high sustain, plus we have access to sustain from our skills too. So, stat page wise, it is very solid. As I said with the Mundus, it's the Lover Mundus. If you go into Battlegrounds, you can change this for more sustain if you wish. Or if you want to change some of the glyphs, then you may want to change this too. Me personally, I wouldn't. As with the skills, because of the nature of the Mythic, we have to hybrid our skills. We use Magicka and Stamina skills for damage. We use Biting Jabs, it gives us access to Major Sorcery, which is our damage buff. There's not any real good source of it beyond Degeneration, and we don't have much bar space. So this does two jobs with one thing. It's a spammable and it's a damage buff. We use Toppling Charge. This is a gap closer and it also stuns people or knocks them down, so really good. We then use Radiant Glory. This is an execute. It is stupidly broken, especially against roly-poly builds. And I use Power of the Light, which is a just delayed burst skill. So we cast this on somebody. As we do damage to them, what will happen is it will glow, and then when it runs out, it will get a big damage pop. So there it was 10,000. What's also nice is that you proc the Sauntered status effect, and what that means is we get an extra 3,000 penetration due to minor breach. So this is like just extra damage and also 3k pen. We then use Camo Hunter, which is for our major crit buffs, so you get more crit chance and minor berserk if we attack from the flank. We don't get the berserk often, but the crit is quite noticeable, the extra chance. And on top of this, because it's a fighter's guild skill, we get Slayer, which is an extra 3% weapon damage, and with how high we stack with the weapon damage, it's really noticeable. We also get Banish the Wicked, which is 3 ult when we kill people. This works against players and also against NPCs, so it's a really good way to recharge our ult. You could try and use Dawnbreaker if you wanted on the front bar, like Dawnbreaker of Smiting, but Templar Sweep is very good. So I would keep Crescent Sweep if you can. It hits really hard, it's dirt cheap, and it's got an AoE around you once you hit it. As for the back bar, we are using Restoring Focus. This gives us the armor buff. It also gives us a small heal, and it gives us 242 stam every second. This works when we are blocking, which is awesome. So when we are blocking, our stamina will still go up, which normally stam does not. On top of this, you can also go and get this twice every 2 seconds, so it's like 400 regen. So with our stat page, we've got 1500 here with a potion, 1900 plus 400. So we've got about 2500 stamina recovery on this build. Really good sustain. We use Elemental Susceptibility for Major Breach. This reduces the target's armor by almost 6k, and we also hit Burning, Chilled and Concussed, doing more damage to them. These 3 status effects do hit quite hard, as you'll see. And you can spam this. It's a really good skill. For the burst heal, we use Honor the Dead. This basically pays for itself. It's really good. It's really just bursty. It's a great skill. We have Race Against Time. This is our movement skill, snare immunity, and it's also more crit damage. And we use Resolving Vigor as a heal over time plus armor buff. So when we put these two on, we've got Major and Minor Resolve, giving us really high just physical and spell resist. Plus, as we said earlier, that 15% damage reduction is like 9,000 armor if you want to sort of compare the two. So it's like having 33,000 armor plus the vampire. It's just really tanky. And then we use Temporal Regard on the back bar for minor protection, which gives us more damage reduction. I have been trying to play with, can we make this a sort of magic focus build? And the answer is no. The problem is that you do need to sacrifice quite a lot to get the magic versions in. And more often than not, as a Templar, you are in melee range anyway, so you might as well just embrace this hybrid playstyle. This skill set, sustain etc., will work better for this playstyle. Now for the champion points and how they work. For the blue ones, Focus Mending for more healing, Master at Arms, Wrathful Strikes and Ironclad. You can change Wrathful Strikes for Jeweler's Rebuff to be stupidly tanky, because Templar's all about that battle of attrition. You're not bursting people down, you're trying to just overwhelm them and then execute. Wrathful Strikes buffs all of our damage, Master at Arms buffs the main ones I use. You could, if you really wanted though, change them to things like Bite and Aura, or Deadly Aim, or Thaumaturge as you see fit. If you're unsure what to do, you could change Master at Arms and just keep Wrathful Strikes on, and like fighting finesse for more crit, etc. But these blue ones are the better ones in my opinion. For the red ones, we are using Celerity, Survival Instincts, Pain's Refuge, and Sustain by Suffering. And for the green ones, whatever you like. The last thing now is the item sets and how this actually is built. Everything comes around this mythic. Talk of the last Ayleid King. It's loads of damage, magicka and stam recovery, and it's 15% damage reduction. It is very, very good. The only downside is that none of the sets work. So everything on a 2, 3, 4, 5 piece will not work. Monster sets are disabled, single piece items are disabled like trainee, special weapons are disabled, everything is disabled. To the point this does not work in no CP Cyrodiil. So everything is disabled. The issue is then that is what can you do with this? Well, your weapon trait transfers over, your glyphs works, the item weight stroke type also works. So with that in mind, we really want to maximise those to get the most bang for our buck out of them. I would recommend for this to use dual wield and go with 2 hammers. You want Nirnhound on the main hand and Sharpen on the offhand. If you do Nirnhound on the main and Sharpen on the offhand, you'll get more damage. If you swap them over, you'll get less damage. You want Disease on one glyph and Poison on the other. This gives us extra status effects, which is more damage and more sustained damage, which is quite nice. If you want, you could change Nirnhound to be Sharpened or Charged if you want to really build into that status effect, but I think this is the best sort of way to play it. For the back bar, we use an Ice Staff defending with a weapon damage glyph. For the helmets, it's a medium helmet, heavy chest, medium shoulders, light waist, medium hands, medium legs, and medium feet. I've gone with all triglyphs on everything. If you can't afford all triglyphs, just health, then a stam and just change your attributes around. That works really well. But triglyphs are more sort of stats dense, so they are better if you can get them. Ideally do the head, the chest and the legs, and then the rest on just stamina as you need. For the traits, I've gone with Reinforce on the chest and All Impen on the main pieces. As you get better with the build and more experience with PvP, add more and more well fitted. The sweet spot is 3 well fitted and 4 Impen, or 3 well fitted and 3 Impen and 1 reinforced. You can kind of play around with that. For the jewellery, it's all infused and it's all stam recovery. If you're new to the build, stam recovery will really help you out to begin with. We have over 7,000 spell damage, we hit very hard anyway, and we don't need more damage. The sustain is more useful in my opinion. That said, as you get more experience with this, you can change this to be more weapon damage and you get more out of this. That said, if you are using food that is not food designed for like recovery, you could obviously go and change these as you see fit. So you might go, actually, I'm going to keep this recovery on but change my food and still be okay. I've built extra sustain into this to just give you that flexibility to change it as you see fit. But that there, guys, is the build on the whole. I've been playing around with this loads to try and find the best combination of skills. I've tried things like Live in Dark, I've tried different morphs and magmorph, I've tried adding into cleanse on this, and it's not, you lose so much if you try and slot in something else. So I would suggest play around with this skill set, this loadout, see how it feels for you, and if you do need to cleanse, then do consider dropping something you don't use often. But this is kind of a really good starting point to go on. If you get any questions about the build or about how to play it, then I'd suggest that you do subscribe to the channel. I do stream every weekend on Saturday where I can show the gameplay. I can also show follow-up on YouTube itself. And if you want to support myself and get access to videos early and stuff, I do have a Patreon. There's details down below. But as always, I'll catch you in the next video or in the next stream. So thanks for watching, guys. Take care and bye.